This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 326 of the Dressage Radio Show, brought to you by the USPEA on the Horse Radio Network. This is Regina Cristo from Sand Lake, New York.
And this is Lindsay McCall from Jupiter, Florida, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show. Coming up on today's show, we chat with USEF Director of Sports, Will Connell, about growing, and we also are going to be speaking with Kathy Alm, who is the CEO of PATH, the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship International, about the Centers of Excellence. So, Regina, how's everything been going?
Everything's been great. It's been a busy summer. It's almost hard to believe it's closing in on us here a little bit in the end of August. Up here in New York, upstate New York, I can almost see some leaves changing. So, you know what that means.
Cold weather to come.
Yes. But it's been a beautiful summer. And how's everything in Florida?
Everything's good. It sounds like we're getting some type of a hurricane that's coming up in this next week. But in the horse world, everything's good. It's been a little warm at some of the shows down here. I've noticed that the Wellington circuit there's still a lot going on down here, which I'm very excited about because that means it's going more year round.
Awesome.
And personally, my child just turned 1 year old on Saturday. So we had a little party for her, which was really fun.
Wow, that doesn't seem possible. My goodness.
I know. It was just a year ago. We were out in the world. Everyone was in the World Equestrian Games, and I was at home and waiting for my baby to come.
Yes. Oh, I remember it well. Well, that's great. Yeah, it's been busy up here. Still working. I think I mentioned last time I took a position with Dover Saddlery here in the Albany, New York area, so I'm enjoying that part-time, and I've had some time to work with my horse and compete, and we're getting ready for the regional championships that are coming up in Region 8 in a few weeks, and That's been really fun. So, yeah, it's been busy.
I know in the para world, we've had riders in Europe. They were in over to France. We've had riders all over. Sounds like everybody's doing really well, and we're getting ready for the USEF Para Equestrian Dressage National Championship, and that's coming up at the end of October, and that's going to be held in Katy, Texas. And right before that, there's also a CPEDI 3-star occurring. And so we're pretty excited about that. We're gearing up for next year, which is, of course, the Paralympics.
Yeah, it's great to be reading about everybody working so hard to get to Texas and do the show and the nationals, and it's an exciting time. So I wish everybody the best of luck, and hope to hear more about everybody's training and what's going on. So I hope everybody keeps sharing things, especially to be great.
So coming up on our show as our first guest is the United States Equestrian Federation's new the sport director, Will Connell. And we're excited to have him on and talk to us a little bit about the Centers of Excellence, which has just gotten started in the para-dressage world. And he's also going to tell us a little bit about his background because he has this amazing, wonderful background from the British Equestrian Federation, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say. We have Will Connell on the line tonight with Regina and myself. Hi, Will. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. And how are you?
We're doing well. So we're excited to have you on. You are the sport director for the United States Equestrian Federation, and it's a relatively new position for you. But how about you tell our listeners a little bit about your background and kind of where you came from?
Yeah, so I joined the USEF last October. For the 11 years prior to that, I worked for the British Equestrian Federation in Great Britain as the performance director, looking after the World Class Programme. The World Class Programme is funded by UK Sport, lottery funding, and looks after the what would probably be called in the States the high performance programs for 3 Olympic and 1 Paralympic equestrian disciplines. So I was there really from before Athens Olympic and Paralympic Games through to after the World Equestrian Games in Normandy last year. Before that, I was in the Army for 17 years and spent quite a bit of time in London with a mounted unit called the King's Troop that basically pulls guns around with horses and fires all the Royal Salute.
Nice.
Wow.
That sounds great. Pretty impressive. So how are you liking your new position, your relatively new position with USEF, and are you finding anything more challenging than others at the moment?
Well, I think some of the challenges are very similar. How the USEF has grown and evolved with affiliates is very similar to how the British Federation has grown and evolved with the member bodies. I think the biggest challenge over here in the States is the geography. I mean, it's you can fly across Europe in the first time that you fly from one side of the States to the other. It's a massive landmass to try and develop programs and to bring people together and generate effective communication. So I think the landmass is a big challenge, but perhaps brings other opportunities. I think the generosity of people in America to get behind a program, to get behind an ideal, to get behind an idea is very different from probably the rest of the world, and it's fantastic. I mean, the generosity of the people that donate to the foundation is well, we're kind of reliant on it for the programs, along with the funding we get from the federation, the sponsors, and the United States Olympic Committee. So I think there are some challenges here. I think when we get on and talk about para-equestrian dressage, we've got a big hill to climb. But I think there's a lot of similarities. Clearly, you've taken our lovely English language and made changes to it, which catches me out. I still can't quite get used to having month, day, year instead of day, month, year, but those are little things I'm going to go.
And what kind of big differences are you seeing between, the British team and what you did with them and the United States?
Well, I think generally the opportunities we had in Britain for getting everyone together, whether that was team staff, whether that was around research and development, whether that was around continued professional development, whether it was around squad sessions for athletes and the horses, that was a lot easier, lot easier. And so it gave us an opportunity for more centralized training. And also, I think how certainly show jumping and eventing, developing and dressage in the States is very exciting when you look at, where we came from 5 years ago. So there is still a need to get to Europe and compete against the very best. And clearly, if you're going from Great Britain to Germany, it's a short hop across the channel. If you're going from the United States, especially the West Coast, to Germany, it's a 7-12 hour flight. So again, this geography comes into it. Like Britain, there's some fantastically talented riders in all the disciplines in America. There's obviously a lot bigger Western scene in America, which is very different to Europe. We have some great owners. I don't think we probably have quite the young horse scene in America that there is in Europe, and I would love to see across the Olympic disciplines and some of the non-Olympic disciplines, especially, that developing, and for more of our younger riders to learn how to ride younger horses. I think that's something we need to address and work with our breeders on that. On the para-equestrian side, Britain was at the very forefront of the development of the sport, and that put them in a very good position. Of course, the Riding for the Disabled Association in Britain is huge, and that gave a good basis for riders with disabilities to enjoy the therapeutic and the enjoyment side of riding. And when para-equestrian dressage grew, then became the avenue for those riders that wanted to have a competitive career as well as enjoy riding. And I think that gave Great Britain a real advantage in para-equestrian dressage, and one that they're still enjoying. That said, the rest of the world's catching up. And I think we have work to do in that area, and we might be talking about the centres of excellence in a minute. There's plenty of work to do to kind of link up the therapeutic riding centres in America, which, I'm fast learning are massive in number and geographic spread, and linking them to para-equestrian dressage. So, a lot of similarities, but a lot of challenges, and I think a lot of opportunities.
That's great. Now, can you, Will, tell us a little bit, we've been hearing the term centers of excellence around recently. Could you touch on that and explain to our listeners what exactly that is?
Yeah, so we kind of sat around the table and thought, with para-equestrian dressage, how do we help the sport grow in the States? How do we attract more owners? How do we attract more athletes? How do we identify athletes? How do we link athletes with the horses most appropriate for them? How do we get athletes who want to compete in para-equestrian dressage linked up with coaches that really understand where the sport is going globally? As I said, in Britain, we used to do a lot of our training and talent identification centrally, which just simply isn't possible here, is it? So we had to kind of think of another way, and it fast became clear that, as I said, there was this great network of PATH or CHA centres that were delivering fantastic support to people with disabilities who wanted to ride. And therefore, it seemed sensible to try and overlay the states or overlay parts of the states initially with centres where we could channel our resource into, and they could reach out as centres in their state, in their local area. So by resource, I don't just mean money, of which we have some, we need more, a lot more, but coaching resource, communication resource, veterinary advice, physiotherapy advice. Instead of trying to reach around lots of small barns, have these try and work with owners of facilities that could develop a kind of nodal network of centres where, if people wanted to follow a competitive career, and there's no, people can enjoy riding, they don't have to compete, that it became places they could go to, and in time, these centres would reach out into their regions and develop links with those organisations that are there providing therapeutic riding opportunities. So that, as I say, if people want to compete, there's no pressure to compete. We're not saying competing is better than pleasure riding. Of course it's not. It's all part of the great tapestry that horses offer us. And so that's what we're trying to do. So we've just launched the Centres of Excellence in partnership with the USPEA, and I think what the US Para-Equestrian Association will bring is that real expertise, and we'll work with coaches and judges and training experts to try and, once identified, work with these centres to help them develop a sort of 3, 5, 8 year business plan. And then really, as I say, channel a resource through those centres so that, if someone has a son or daughter with a disability and they're mad keen to compete on a horse, then they know where to go, and they know they'll get good coaching, and they know that, we can discuss a 4-year plan, 8-year plan for them to get them onto the podium, because a country this size, we should be winning medals in para-equestrian dressage, and I think para-equestrian dressage and Paralympic medals are equally important as Olympic, world, whatever medals. It's Paralympic Games are a fantastic sporting event. So we need to develop the sport further in this country, and we felt this is the the most effective way to do it. And I hope that also, if there's a center in Texas, let's say, that businesses and donors in Texas will be able to identify with their center of excellence and support it financially. Because in any sport, Paralympic, Olympic, non-Olympic, whatever it might be, in this day and age, if you want to win medals on the world stage, you need to be putting in place world-class programs. You can't just get up 3 weeks before the competition and go and win a medal. You need to be looking at all the facets of what it takes to win a medal. It's hard work now. It's dedication, So we've got to up our game, and we're going to try and do it for the centres of excellence. That's the plan. Now we've got to put it into reality.
Well, that sounds like an ambitious and wonderful plan. Can you tell us, have you met any of the U.S. para riders around and about, and where you might have met them, and some of the relationships you might be starting to form?
Yeah, I think one of the, get back to one of your questions at the beginning, one of the differences for me, which I must know I don't necessarily enjoy in the States, is that A, because of the geography, B, because my job here has a far wider spec, is I spend less time at competitions and training sessions than I probably did in the UK. Maybe that's because I'm new to the job and I'm still trying to get my head around everything and get the programs aligned and everything. I did go up to Maine for a session up there, which was great. It was a fantastic facility, and met some really great people. And obviously, I watched surreptitiously the riders in the American riders in the World Equestrian Games last year. I'm not going to claim I know the riders personally. I don't. But actually, that's not my job. We have Lorraine, who's the director of para-equestrian at the Federation, with Kai as the head coach. There's plenty of people whose job it is to be interfacing with these riders on a day-by-day basis, and the selectors. And they're the kind of coalface. Unfortunately, I'm a bit further back from the coalface than maybe I was in the UK. But then I was there for 11 years, so it's very difficult to kind of project myself back to 2003 when I walked into the office and went, "Oh, true, what have I let myself in for?" So I hope over the years that, I really want to get to meet the athletes, and not just the athletes, the grooms, the owners, the parents, the trainers. Everyone is part of this journey, this aim to win medals across all the FEI disciplines, the national breeds. We won a gold medal in saddle seat this year, which was fantastic. And as a nation, we should be aiming to slowly but surely climb to the top of that medal table. It's going to be challenging. It's going to take time. The Germans, the Dutch, and the British are all pretty strong at the moment. But I do want to get out and meet people, but you can't build a house unless you build the foundations first. So I think the focus for the moment has got to be getting those foundations in, and we've got a lot of work to do. We need coach development programs, we need equine sports science and medicine programs. We're just about to launch a human sports science and medicine program. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do to really be, challenging the nations that are doing that and in time kicking their butts.
Well, it sounds like you're on the right track, and I know the para-equestrian in the United States and the athletes and all the supporters really appreciate what you're going to be doing for the sport and for our athletes, and we look forward to working with you.
Uncle Jimmy's Hanging Balls and Licky Things help combat stall boredom by providing your horse entertainment in the stall, while at the same time providing them with much-needed minerals and nutrients not found in other treats. Uncle Jimmy's has training treats covered, too, with Uncle Jimmy's Squeezy Buns. Every deliciously soft, squishy treat is individually wrapped for freshness, so your pockets won't get gummed up. Ask for Uncle Jimmy's Hanging Balls, Licky Things, and Squeezy Buns at your local tack and feed supplier, or you can go online to uncle-jimmys.com.
Next, we'd like to welcome our next guest, and that would be Kathy Elm, who is the CEO of PATH, which is the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship International. Well, thank you tonight for joining us, Kathy. We really appreciate your time.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your equestrian background for our listeners?
I would be happy to. Interestingly enough, my equestrian background is actually fairly limited. My original background was in nonprofit management, which was in live theater. And one day, as I was going along in that career path, I'd been doing it for about 10 years, I said to myself, the next logical step for me would be to become a managing director of a theater, and I don't really want to do that. What I want to do is take all of these wonderful skills that I've learned and use them someplace I feel really passionate. And I took some time to figure out what that meant, and I realized that what that meant for me was somewhere where animals and people were working together. And then, to be honest, I got a little bit lucky, and I saw an ad for this place called Little Bit Therapeutic Riding Center. They were looking for an executive director, and I applied for that job and felt the moment I walked through the doors, I felt like I had come home. And they took a risk on me, and I'm thrilled they did because it was a fabulous step in my life and for me. And as soon as I got the job, I immediately started taking horseback riding lessons. So my equestrian experience essentially started about 16 years ago when I got the job at Little Bit Therapeutic Riding Center, started taking lessons and learning everything I possibly could about horses. Now, I will say, mind you, that as a child, I would have done anything to have a horse. Every picture I ever drew had a horse in it. So this was just like a dream come true.
Oh, that's great. Not everybody gets to find that path, huh?
Exactly.
So tell us about what your responsibilities are at PATH.
Well, as the CEO of PATH International, my responsibility is to make sure that I am leading the organization in the direction that the board of directors has set. And the board of directors is made up both of community people as well as membership, and they set the direction based on what membership tells them. What membership tells them is important. And so my job is to make sure that we are going in that direction and to make sure that all of the staff that are working towards that vision have the resources they need in order to accomplish that.
Remind our listeners how long you've been in this position?
Just a little bit over 1 year. And it's been fantastic. I feel like my job at Little Bit Therapeutic Riding Center as executive director, I was there for 15 years. But while I was there as executive director, I volunteered for PATH International. And I held several volunteer positions, everything from region rep to an administrators committee to serving on the board to being board president to leading the strategic planning process. And I feel like all of that, both my work at Little Bit and then my work as a volunteer, really set me up very, very well to step into this role. And I have been so excited to be here and to be doing this work, particularly because of the strategic plan and because of the vision and everything we're doing to further this industry of equine-assisted activities and therapies.
And you had been talking about, you ran a large facility in Washington State, and can you kind of tell us a little bit more about that?
About Little Bit or about running the facility?
Well, really, tell me about how, with Little Bit, how that has helped you run a large facility. Getting the job at Little Bit was the first dream come true, to be honest, because I don't really know any other way to say it than recognizing that I had found my people, I had found my community, and that community is made up of incredible riders, people, the participants that are participating in the program, their families, their siblings, their parents, their guardians, the volunteers that make the work actually happen, as well as the staff and the donors. And working in that environment, really getting to understand what it means to provide this service, how important this service is
to children and adults living with disabilities, how life-changing it is, to really get an understanding of that from the on-the-ground level, to see it firsthand every single day, and then to look to Path International, who sets the standards and credentials the professionals providing that service, and understanding the importance of Path setting those standards and of our professionals on the ground following those standards to make sure the participants are getting safe and quality services.
So what is your involvement been so far, or in your quest here with para-equestrian discipline, or just para-dressage in particular?
So my both my education and involvement started with Little Bit Therapeutic Riding Center. We had, during my time there, we had 2 different riders that were on that path to become a para-equestrian. And I tell you, there were some amazing tangible and intangible benefits to supporting a participant on that path. You know, the tangible benefits included things like, of course, the incredible progress that individual rider made, but it also included amazing PR for the center, as well as really great fundraising opportunities. The intangible benefits that honestly kind of give me goosebumps whenever I talk about them are things like watching this entire community embrace and encircle these riders as they were on their quest, and the hope these riders gave the other riders. So Little Bit at the time was probably serving somewhere between 175 and 200 riders a week, and the hope those riders got watching the rider trying for the Paralympics. I mean, I can't tell you how many of those riders called her their hero. That's the part that gives me goosebumps, because they looked at her, they watched what she was doing, and they were like, oh, maybe I can do that.
And I know recently we've been discussing the Centers of Excellence, and we just had Will Connell on the line with us from the United States Equestrian Federation. And the USEF and USPEA have released the Centers of Excellence, which are seeking existing equestrian training facilities to serve as pipelines for para-dressage. How do you see PATH being a part of all of this?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm very excited that they're doing this. I'm very excited that they're getting that kind of focus because I think it would be just tremendous for Centers of Excellence to be created and have a pipeline. How I see PATH participating is helping to get the word out, helping to make sure that our centers know that this exists and that this is a possibility. You know, I will caution a little bit that having run a center, even a center that had a candidate, it is challenging for our centers because, of course, they are very focused on simply being able to provide the services that they are already trying to provide. So this adds another layer that can be challenging for them to find time and resources to do. However, I also have seen, I think I'm seeing an increase in appreciation and interest in competition, such as just recently with the Special Olympic Games in LA, and we had a couple of centers participating in that.
Can you tell us about any big initiatives at PATH that you are leading as CEO, or any other exciting things going on particularly?
Absolutely. I'm really excited that what came out of the strategic plan, and the reason I keep referencing that is because that strategic plan was driven by our members. What's important? What do you want us to be doing? What do you want us to focus on? And what came back loud and clear was credentialing, quality assurance, and education. And so one of our big initiatives is to really look at our credentials and get our credentials accredited, follow best practices to ensure that our credentials are the highest level, highest quality standard they possibly can be. So right now we're starting to begin a job analysis on our registered instructor credential, which will give us outside credibility to what that credential stands for and what that test looks like. So that's one. Number two is the quality assurance. We have already formed a quality assurance task force that is overseeing increasing our quality assurance, doing things like making sure that our continuing education units for our instructors are what they should be, and that being much more clear about we'll accept this for continuing education but not this for you to continue with your credential. We've also put together a grievance process so that members and everybody have a way to make sure that we are upholding each other and holding each other to the standards that PATH has set out. And last but certainly not least is education, really focusing on making our education accessible to all of our members. So there's an emphasis on more webinars, for example, because it's harder and harder for people to travel somewhere to get their education. But having webinars available means that people are able to get their education more easily and more accessible. So those are the three big initiatives that we are currently focused on.
Wow, that's really great, Kathy. And what else are you seeing for the future? And what I want to know is with PATH and with Paradressage and with everything involved, do you see anything else in the future that you're looking forward to?
I would really love to see Paradressage be very successful to get a pipeline of participants and competitors and really raise the bar all across the country and ultimately, all the way to the Paralympics. And I would love to see a way for our centers to participate in that. I think, although I think that may be a little bit of a slower road, I would love to see that because I know firsthand the benefits of having a para-equestrian as part of your center. So I would love to see more of that as we go forward.
Yeah, wonderful goal, because we all know it's not easy and some things take longer than others. But your information and everything you've told us just sounds wonderful, and it seems like you're doing a fantastic job. And, it takes everybody doing all their parts to be successful in our Paradressage programs and our right up to the, your local Paradressage right up through high performance. And it does take a little bit of everybody doing a little bit of something. So I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much for speaking with us. And I'm sure our listeners will really appreciate all you've shared with us.
This tip was brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, the shoulder relief girth that Reese and Philip both love. And here's why.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the Shoulder Relief Girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The Shoulder Relief Girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your Shoulder Relief Girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on the website at dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search for Dressage Radio Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. Learn more about para-dressage and other para-equestrian disciplines at USPEA.org.
And thanks to our sponsors who make this show possible, Uncle Jimmy's, Total Saddle Fit, and listeners like you. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com. Or you can listen on our free app for Android or iOS. Just go to your app store and search Horse Radio Network. And of course, you can always listen via iTunes.
We'd like to thank both our guests tonight for a very interesting and enlightening show. Looking forward to seeing you all next month.